welcome to
Fika for Life!
My name is Edward Thomas, and my co-host is...
Linh. Hello.
That was really fast.
Yeah.
What if someone's like has really slow hearing? They'll hear like...
They're like, hoo-hoo. Okay,
Exactly.
her name is Hoo-hoo.
They're like, that weird fairy on the podcast.
On the podcast.
On the TV.
Okay.
I think we're on a TV show right now.
Well, we are working on it to get this podcast into a video cast.
I know. That would be really great.
I don't want to.
What do you guys say? Do you guys want to see us when we're talking? Do you want to see the magic when it's happening?
See when Ed is falling asleep. I totally agree on you.
I'll take pills and I'll be like, where's my energy drink? This has been brought to you by Noko.
Okay, so what are we talking about today, Ed?
Yes, well, one of our listeners called in and said that they wanted us to talk about things like how do we manage relationships, how do we manage like what's more important, the education from your family or education from school or weight. And I felt like maybe we should talk about relationships, about managing relationships, because we talk about relationships quite often. And those are the episodes that most of you guys want to hear, because obviously you need our wisdom.
Okay, what do you mean by managing relationships? What kind of?
I have no idea what our reader, because it was just a line. So I figure we have to fill the content with what we think she really meant.
Like how to balance maybe your relationships? Or
No.
Manage your relationships.
Who has balanced relationships? I mean, really. On TV, people do, but in reality...
But should you have balanced relationships? Like, should
yeah.
be equal between your family and everything
If people
around?
were kind in the world, yeah. But we live in a jacked up world, and so therefore... the whole idea that everything can be balanced, like I was watching this program, and they were talking about how everything had to be 50-50, and people were talking about...
What? That's so Swedish.
Everything is so 50-50 in our relationship. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a control freak out there somewhere. Like, you can't be 50-50 because no two people are exactly the same, and they don't like the same things, and they're not the same person.
They cannot do 50-50.
You can only do 50-50 if you're exactly equal in every single thing.
Yeah.
You could do 50-50, which sucks if you're equal in everything, but you're really bad at it.
But what if they mean like, okay, we do 50-50, like, let's say I hate doing the dishes, but my husband likes to do dishes, so he has to do only 50 and I have to do 50%, but then I really like, I don't know, to cook, and I can only do 50 and he has to do 50.
Exactly. And that's the whole thing. It actually becomes terrorism, because it's this whole idea that I'm going to check how many hours you cook and then how many hours I cook, and then we have to make sure we cook the same amount of hours.
Oh,
gosh. And all of a sudden what happens
so stressful.
Exactly. It's like living in a prison. And you have what usually happens is that both people get nothing out of the relationship, and it's probably doomed. So 50-50 doesn't work. And if you're trying for 50-50, you're a sucker. You've been sucked in by Hollywood.
No judgment.
Is that too
here.
hard? Is that too hard? Okay, you're not a sucker. You've been highly deceived.
Yeah, you have been lied to.
By the Hollywood and the TV and Facebook and Twitter and all the other things that are demonically controlling your mind.
Demonically controlling your mind. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be restrained now in 2023. I don't want to go over the top like I did in 2022.
So this is something like within a romantic relationship.
Well, I think it's in all relationships. So people go to work and think their bosses are going to treat them fairly. They should.
Fairly, you mean with them, like between the boss and the employee, or between the employees among each other?
All that.
All of that.
All that. People are crazy. Now, I mean, obviously, you shouldn't work for a place. So, listen, if you don't have a lot of debt, you could just quit jobs. You don't have to work anywhere.
Yeah.
But if you have a lot of debt, what happens is you just need to shut up and do the work, because you're stuck. You're a slave to money. So that's what debt does. Debt makes you a slave to money. Trust me, I know. I've seen lots of people there. I've been there too. I'm probably still there. Okay, let's just be honest.
I mean, before we started this podcast, we talked about a TV series I was watching on the Swedish Netflix, Bonusfamiljen. And when you talked about like quitting your job and not being paid or treated equally, there was this one guy. He was working with a colleague in a bed shop where they sell beds, and then they found out. But it's very
I'm glad you
un-Swedish.
said that. The bed shop is where they sell beds, not where they sleep in beds.
Well, I had to clarify for you, because some people might misunderstand.
Yes, thank you.
But the thing is, like in Sweden, usually you never talk about your salary, especially not with your colleagues.
No,
like there is no way But in this episode, this guy found out that he only earned 26,000 per month, which is not a lot for Swedish standards. And then his colleague was earning 3,000 more, although he was younger, and he hasn't worked as long as him. And the thing is that he got upset. It felt like he got upset with his colleague, but his colleague said, "But that's not my fault, you know.
Right.
You should be better at negotiating your salary." And he was trying to make a point like, "Well, but I sell more beds than you do," and like trying to make a point that it's not equal. And then their boss came around. Right. And this guy who had a lower salary, he was like telling the boss, I think it's really unfair that you are that we are paid like differently. So how come? And blah, blah, blah. And then the boss said, "Well, you know that we have individual salary negotiations, so it's not like everyone gets the same. It's like depending on your performance and all of this kind of stuff." And then he's like, "Yeah, but can't we like reach an agreement and something? Like, can't we put both salaries together and just split it in half, 50-50, and give each?"
No.
And then the boss asked the other guy who has more, like, "Are you okay with that?" And he's like, "No."
Of course not.
And then the other guy got upset. He was like, "I thought you got my bag." Like, but
wow,
that's not like how it works.
That's not how reality based.
That's not how it works.
Well, that's really funny because right now, so we're part of it's just so hard. So there's a denomination called the Church of Sweden, and then EFS, which is a group within the Church of Sweden, but an independent group is where our church is located.
Yeah.
So it's the evangelical part of the Church of Sweden. The problem is that they have no money because they get no money from the Church of Sweden. So my salary comes from our church. But when we've tried to negotiate a higher, it's not like a super high salary, but it's so that my salary would be like a living wage. And then EFS, I know you guys all get really upset with me that I'm saying this out loud, but I don't care. And so EFS then they said, "Well, we need to have a solidarity cap on the salaries." I'm like, "But that
what does it mean?"
But that
there's a maximum.
Well,
that
no,
you can get.
See, that's the whole thing. The agreement that we have with our union is that each person negotiates their own salary.
Yeah.
But AFS feels like you can't have the salaries too high in some place and too low in another place. So they artificially put a cap on it, but that's illegal for them to do.
So Swedish.
But they're saying like, "No, it's not a cap. It's about solidarity." I'm like, if you're limiting you're not paying anything, so it doesn't hurt you anything. It comes from our church. It's our members that are actually paying. You guys don't help us out with
it's like everyone
anything.
has to get as bad salary as everyone else.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly. And it's that kind of thinking. That thinking that somehow by artificially limiting, and people do this in relations, but by artificially limiting salaries, you think that you're being fair, but you're not.
Yeah, you're fairly, you treat everyone equally bad.
Equally bad, exactly. You treat everyone like crap. And in relationships, people tend to do that too. If you think that you have to manage the relationship by trying to put everything in some kind of a bookkeeping system, so you're constantly keeping track. Well, I spent 12 hours with the kids, yesterday, and so you need to spend 12 hours with the kids today.
Oh my gosh!
But people do that.
How does that work?
What it does is that it creates animosity, it creates strife, because what happens
bitterness.
Because each person is trying to. What happens? You get this tit for tat. Every person then goes back. So, okay, but you only did 6 hours on the dishes yesterday, and I did 8, so you owe me 2 hours. And all of a sudden
oh wow,
it doesn't bring unity. It doesn't see difference. It doesn't see diversity. And so that's one of the worst ways to manage all relationships, whether it's work, whether it's your romantic relationships, whether it's relationships between parents and kids, kids to kids, school, teachers, everything.
What about people then who would say, "Well, my husband, he always works so much. I wish he would spend more time with me." Like,
so what? You want a bum?
What a bum! I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just giving you.
But I'm saying, okay. So a lot of times when we're sitting around counseling, we're talking to people. A common thing is that one person thinks the other person works too much. I hear this more from women who feel that their husbands work too much and don't give them enough attention. And I usually say, well, okay. So in the ideal world, what does that look like?
Yeah.
What do you really want to happen? Well, I want him to come home, and when he comes home, I want him to be enthusiastic about me, blah, blah, blah. And what I hear is that I want him to come and serve me, but I've never in these conversations, I've never heard if it's from the wife, I've never heard the wife say, because I want to do this for him. there's never any give. It's only take. And that's one of the things I try to bring up in that conversation. And it happens guys too. Guys are like, oh, you know, she's so busy with her friends or this or that. I'm like, another taker. Okay. because I think the whole thing is that people get married and then they stop seeing the other person as an individual separate from themselves.
Yeah.
And they start to actually interpret that person based on what they actually want to take from the person. So a husband thinks that the wife isn't loving enough
because she's
not giving him
him.
She's not serving him. The wife thinks the husband's not giving her enough attention because she wants to take attention from him for herself. And so I know.
But isn't that a human thing, though?
Yeah, but this is the whole thing. If you're going to have relationships with people, it has to be both give and take.
Yeah, but now you're just. I mean, I think many times people, when they demand things, I think they're thinking, I'm giving so much already. So now it's my turn to take. Really?
Because in these conversations, they never talk about what they give. They only talk about what they are not getting. Yeah.
Really? They never say like, oh, but I take care of your kids, I cook and clean, or oh, but I pay all the bills. They never do that. They
Sometimes
never say
people
that.
always say things like that, but usually it's always so the person says, let's say a person says, well, I pay all the bills. I work so hard, I pay all the bills, blah 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 blah. Okay. But you also see my whole thing is that you choose relationships and you have to choose the consequences of those relationships. And since relationships can't be balanced, you have to choose to live in the imbalance. And if you choose to live if you can accept the imbalance, then what happens is that you find yourself being less frustrated.
But don't people have the idea that, oh, but if you live in imbalance, you're going to get burned out, or someone's going to leave the other one, or they're going to get divorced because it's imbalanced.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
okay.
I mean,
so
there's an extreme imbalance. You don't want to have that. So extreme imbalance is one person gives all the time, one person takes all the time.
Yeah.
So that's not healthy. That's dangerous. That needs to stop right away. But since people are individuals, so we go back to the washing dishes thing that you took up. One person likes to do dishes, one person doesn't. So the 50-50 says we both have to do dishes equally. That doesn't work either. That's just stressful. But the other thing is, like, if you look at our differences, and if every couple would actually go back and say, okay, listen, we're really different. We're not the same people. What do we actually bring? What do you like to do?
What about the other one person
and both
does?
couples list like what they like to do. And when they find parallels, I mean, sorry, not parallels, when you're finding opposites. So like
complementary.
Complements. Yeah, exactly. Sorry. That's right. I forgot about the whole theory of complementarianism. But anyway, when you find that one person likes to do dishes and one person doesn't, then they come to agreement. Okay, is it okay if you do dishes more often?
Most of the time, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll do dishes some of the times.
Yeah.
But I'll do more of the cooking because you don't like to cook and your cooking sucks. And so I'll do most of the cooking, and then you only have to cook sometimes.
Yeah.
And for me, that's a balanced relationship.
Yeah.
Because it respects the differences. And one of the other things about relationships is that people need to understand that, and I think we talked about this before, how important it is to have relationships outside of your relationship.
Yeah, like romantic. Outside your romantic relationship.
Yeah, not a romantic relationship outside of your romantic relationship.
Like,
so if you're married, you just got a little squeeze on the side. No, that's not what we mean. It's immoral. It's against God's law. We don't promote
do it.
We actually promote fidelity. I think you and I both believe in fidelity.
Yeah.
Being faithful until the day you die, if you never get some again.
Well, yeah.
I'm saying this to guys because I know that a lot of guys... If you end up in your marriage and sex stops, you're really frustrated, and it's really difficult. Ladies, I'm trying to tell you,
don't do it.
Don't
kill your man.
If you stop with all affection, you're not going to have a happy guy. He's not going to want to spend as much time with you because it's really painful for a guy, and I'm speaking from a man's perspective, but for a man who loves his wife. And he still finds her hot and wants to have sex with her. And she's like, don't touch me. I'm not in the mood. Don't kiss me. Don't hug me. Don't hold hands with me. Nothing. But you still expect for that guy to be so faithful, not to be tempted, not to give in to his temptation, not to look around the corner and say, oh, look at that way. Oh, wow. Ooh.
And to be patient with you and to keep working hard, just being nice, not say some snappy comment.
Trying to tell you, sex alleviates a lot of stress in a marriage.
It's like the pressure cooker. It's like you have to open the vent.
Exactly. You got to let it out sometimes.
The steam.
Let that steam go.
Otherwise.
And it's the same thing. I mean, there's also, and it's a growing trend right now of women who feel also sexually dissatisfied in their relationships because men, for some reason, I don't know what's going on in the world, but men are losing
their sexual
drive.
interest. Yeah.
They're just like not interested. I know men who are not interested in having sex.
I think I have.
And I'm like,
I think I've heard about.
What's wrong with you?
Some news that the testosterone level in the world among men has decreased.
Not in me.
But in men, in the whole human.
I feel sorry for you men with the low testosterone.
Decreased. Not everyone, obviously, but like the average has decreased.
It seems that way.
And people don't know why. Because it seems to be like a global trend. It's not only...
It's the wrath of God. Yeah. It's one of his punishments. He's like, you people misuse sex all the time. I'll just take away the chemical behind it. Woo. What happens now? Sinners. Huh?
Okay.
I don't know if that's how God really is.
No, I don't think so.
In my comedic head, God has a great sense of humor, and he jokes all the time.
Oh my gosh, Ed.
Is that making God after my own likeness?
Yes.
No, don't say that.
Not the other way around. Okay. God is like you, not you like God.
Well, exactly. No, but I think that this whole idea that these different types of balances in the relationship. So one person wants to have sex, one person doesn't want to have sex. Sex is part of marriage. I don't think it's right to just deny and just cut off sex. I just don't. I think it promotes unhealthiness in a marriage.
I think
if you're not married, you shouldn't be having sex. So you need to have a little self-control. Because if you don't have self-control before you get married, you won't have self-control in the marriage. Just throwing that back out there. We say this very often so that you people will understand.
And they, I think in the time of emancipation and when women's rights and stuff like that, all of that. I mean, many things are really, really important. But then on the other hand, also, I think it put more emphasis on me, like my feelings, how I feel, and not seeing sex or intimacy as an obligation anymore.
Right.
But I think it's both. Like, I think if you have a loving husband and you say, oh no, I really feel bad, like something's going on, like I don't feel for it, then I think he should be able to accept it and like, okay, honey, I understand. Maybe I can.
6 years?
No. I mean, that just like one thing happened. But then also.
Like, there should be a pressure. There should not be a pressure.
Yeah. But then on the other hand, I mean, yes, those things go on. But at some point, if you're in a marriage, you can't just. I mean, things are going on all the time, and you cannot always say like, "Oh, you know what? So much going on all the time." So
the Fed just raised the interest rate. Sorry, no sex
until it goes down, I can't have sex with you.
But then, I mean, Donald Trump's going to be president again. Oh, sorry, you can't touch me now. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't.
So I think this is also a balance thing.
But I think one of the things in these when we're talking about how do you manage relationships. Is this thing that I think is really super important. It's called in Swedish we call it öppet samtalsklimat. And what it is about the level of honesty that you could actually have in a conversation and not jeopardize the relationship. And I feel that, unfortunately,
that's not
easy. What happens is that most people haven't worked on it before they got married. Mm-hmm. And it's too difficult to actually incorporate it into the marriage afterwards. So, and it's one of those things that it's a step that almost everyone hops over. I wish they wouldn't do it. I wish they would come and learn.
They hop over.
They hop over. So they hop over developing an open climate of conversation. And what happens is that usually people are just not as open to the truth as they think they are.
No.
Most people say, "Oh, just tell me the truth," and you tell the truth, and now they explode on you because you told them the truth.
Or they get so hurt, it gets so personal.
No, you don't love me. I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, there's this couple, and and they were talking together, and they were talking about how just tell the truth, but neither of them could handle the truth. I'm like, I just wanted to slap both of them and just say, you're both spoiled. You're both stupid because you can't handle the truth. Go back to lying to each other. Your relationship was so much better when you lied to each other. I know that's not good spiritual counseling, and I know it's not good relational counseling.
Did you say that to them?
No, of course not.
I'm like, what?
I wanted to say that.
Why aren't you honest enough to tell them what you're thinking?
No, I told them that they couldn't handle the truth and that they needed to learn. They have to start with things that are less sensitive, and they have to build up acceptance. It's almost like the truth hurts.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you've got to be hardened against the truth. Mm-hmm. So you have to work
small
at it.
things at a time.
But it's really hard because I mean the same thing affects us in our church. It affects us in trying to create a Christ-like community. Mm-hmm. What affects us is that most people are just not honest.
And also people are sensitive.
That's because they're not honest.
To themselves, you mean?
I don't know.
I mean, if someone tells you something that's critical and you are immature and you haven't been honest with yourself, because I think if you have the same issue with different people at different occasions, then maybe you should reflect upon yourself. Maybe something's going on with myself.
That's a weird thing that people tend to... It's their problem.
Everyone else's problem.
Everyone else's problem. I don't know why they keep saying the same thing about me. They keep talking about how my breath smells like poo-poo. And I think they're just mean to me. But the thing is, if I don't brush my teeth, I don't floss, I've got particles of food in my mouth producing this really noxious gas, which is probably killing half the population around me. And so my own, like that...
Biohazard.
That unreality or unawareness of my own failure at personal oral hygiene means that I'm already sort of tilting the thing to have bad breath. I probably will have bad breath, and my breath will probably smell like rotten poo-poo. And so what happens is then someone comes to tell me because they try to act in love, and I'm like...
try to help you.
But your armpit smells like pee all the time, So people tend to give back instead of saying...
Yeah, because they hurt.
Because I think in our church...
And it's shameful.
I think in our church, we haven't developed an open climate of conversation. So people are so used to being fake. I mean, like, this is
really, is that what I feel like? It's the people. I don't think necessarily it's that we are not speaking truth.
I feel I'm speaking the truth every Sunday, but all you other people in church are faking it.
I'm not faking it. I just stop talking to you if there's an issue. I told you, and you don't react. Really? I'm just like, bye.
I just want to keep doing it because I want to make sure you will love me. And if you really love me as you say you do, then you'll keep telling me over and over again. No. And when you stop, that's the proof. Now your love has dried up.
Yeah, basically. Like, no more love to give. If you want eternal love, go to Jesus, okay? I'm not Jesus.
Wow. That's why there's only 3 people in our church. We used to be 5, but 2 of them got ticked off and they left, so I don't know. So. Yeah, but I think that, now we took it to the level of church and everything, but I think that managing your relationships means seeing people as being different and not having, I can have expectations for myself. I can have high expectations for myself. Mm-hmm. I can't have high expectations of other people.
No.
Because I have to accept that they have their home training, so we haven't talked anything about what people learn at home, but now that I'm working as a teacher part-time...
You realize it's not only nature.
No. There's people without any home training. Oh my gosh.
Like you mean upbringing? From home that people are not...
Well, I guess it's the old-fashioned word, home training, but you were trained at home.
Like dogs.
Yeah, you were like dogs. You were trained at home. When you get out in public, you don't embarrass your family.
You know what's appropriate.
It's not just upbringing, it's training.
Yeah.
You're intentional. This is what you will learn.
This is what you will. We will test this on you.
Exactly.
If you fail, you gotta do it again until you pass.
We'll jerk the collar around your neck and make you come back. Sit.
Wow.
I'm realizing. That's another episode to talk about the whole idea of upbringing and home training and this trend of parents who are no longer parenting their children.
No, yeah, that's me as a fellow parent. I can see that happening. I'm like, no, this is not good.
I don't think it's gonna happen with you. You're like too hard on your kids. I'm
not. Yours is much harder.
I'm like, do whatever you want, whatever feels good. It's okay.
Such a hippie.
You want to smoke weed with your dad? Sure. No, I would never.
No. Don't say it. You're a teacher now.
I don't even know what happened. My kids came up to me and said, Dad, now that we're adults, we want to smoke weed. I'm like, Satan, get behind me. Get out of my house. I command the demon to leave you. Throw holy water on them.
They're like, Dad, stop it. It stinks.
They're like, what are you doing with that old water? It's got fungus on it. It's still holy. No, but I think, wow. But I think that what happens is that this is also affecting relationships. As these spoiled kids with no home training grow up,
those kids cannot manage.
Yeah, they can't manage relationships.
Any relationship.
Because they're so self-centered and so selfish, right? That they can't, they actually don't know how to put themselves into another person's shoes.
Yeah, no empathy.
So they think everyone owes them, even their partners and stuff like that. So
their parents owe them, their school owe them, their friends owe them.
God owes them.
Everyone owes them something.
Yeah, exactly. They're just standing with their hand out. What? I have to do something? I have to clean up behind myself? What? No.
I never had to do this.
You clean up after me. I'm the center of the universe. Don't you know that? No. So I think that in the whole thing, so in managing relationships, I think developing a climate of openness to actually be able to, you can't demand honesty from someone if you can't handle it. And you can't do the 50-50 because that doesn't work. And if you really want to have a healthy relationship, then you have to accept the whole idea of being complementary and the fact of diversity. We're not the same. We can't do the same thing. We can't always do everything the same way.
With romantic relationships, but also with friendships.
No.
Like you can't, I don't think I have any relationship where people are, like I am as engaged as they are 50-50 of the time.
Really? Are you more engaged?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I don't want to be friends with you anymore.
Says you.
I'm just like so committed to our friendship. I'm just like.
But everyone knows that though. No one has ever told me like, Lynn, I'm so disappointed. You never contact me.
Lynn,
I'm
so disappointed. I'm so disappointed.
No one ever said this ever because they know.
People say that to me all the time. They're always like,
really?
You're really hard to reach. I'm like, I'm not attached to my telephone. Think like you're back in the 70s. If you don't answer, you're not home.
Write a letter.
Yeah.
Send a postcard.
You know what? If people actually wrote me letters, I read every letter that's sent to me. If you write a letter to me, not an email, handwritten, a real letter,
or postcard.
Postcard.
If you need it like quick, just send a postcard.
If you want me to answer quickly, you send me a postcard because I'll read it. Oh, I need to get back in contact with you. Oh my gosh, and the whole thing, and people stop ringing me. Please call me. Do not send me text. I don't know any. I'm usually like on the way to some place and people.
But people know that now. We had this episode. We had the episode where how to reach
but we need to do that again.
The secret.
It's already January of 2023 and people are already complaining. I tried to call you. I'm like, listen
like,
here.
I tried to call you on New Year's Eve and you didn't.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I tried to call you at 2:00 on Sunday. I'm like, what do you think I'm doing at 2:00 on Sunday? Duh. We have church. Duh. And it drives me so insane, crazy that like, and I'm like, listen,
you cannot have high expectations on others. You can only have high expectations on yourself.
Oh no, for myself. I mean, listen, if I contact people, they don't get in contact with me. I'm like, I'll just keep bugging you.
Yeah,
I'll just keep sitting. I'm like, listen, I called you. Da 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 da. I'm never upset with people, but I'll just keep nagging until you answer me because I'm like, I'm a pest. I'm like the bubonic plague. Once you get me, you might die before you get rid of me. So, yeah. So anyway, so I think that, so for those of you who might be stimulated by this conversation, and you might, but here's another aspect. See, if you write to us, we go deeper. Right now, we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah, that's a really broad topic. Actually.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's really good if relationships are managed when they're intentionally managed. And you have to have realistic expectations. You can't
on yourself and
other people. Yeah. No one's perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. If you can't handle people making mistakes, you're a chump. Before we end, I'll tell you the 5 things that makes you a bad person in a relationship.
So the don'ts.
Number 1, If you can't handle that people make mistakes and you hold it against them, you're a chump. Number 2, if you never ever say you're sorry for anything, you never feel you have to say it, you feel like the other people make mistakes, but you feel like you've never done anything wrong, you never have to say I'm sorry, you're a chump. Number 3, if you never do anything for the person who you're supposed to be spending the rest of your life with. So now we're talking about romantic relationships, but this could be applied to friendships. If the other people always have to call you, but you never call them.
Yeah.
If other people, like, you never take the initiative in the relationship, you're a chump. Okay?
That's a problem.
Because you're sitting there gliding on other people, expecting them to do stuff for you, but you don't contribute or any way like that. That's a chump. Number 4, if you are a person who is always complaining, but you never come up with a solution.
And then when other people come up with solutions, you always shoot them down.
Yes. Whatever. Solutions for you are things you say no to. And you have no solutions, but you do have complaints. All you do is complain and find fault and tell people what they're doing wrong. You are a chump. Number 5. If you call yourself a believer and you don't really prioritize God in your relationship. I mean, at church, you're all holy roly. But when you're at home, you don't read the Bible with your wife or husband. You don't pray with them. Or if you're upset with them. So I can't pray with you because I'm really upset with you.
Oh, that's...
You know what that means? You are a chump, okay? So these are 5 things you don't want to do. If you want to manage, or if you want to manage good relationships and have balanced, healthy relationships, then don't do these 5 things because that will just kill your relationships. Yeah. And it makes you a chump.
Yeah, so you don't want to be a chump, don't you? So.
All right, everyone. Well, this was a really good, and thank you to our caller for calling in, for writing in to us and giving us a topic to talk about that was really close to her heart. I hope when you listen to this, that this will give you insight and write back to us, okay? And don't forget, everyone, keep it rolling in 2023. We're trying to reach 250,000 listeners, all right? Woohoo! Thank you for listening to us, and bye for now.
Bye. Thank you for listening. If you have any comments or ideas, please send us a message to fikaforlife@mail.com. Fika, F-I-K-A. This was the Fika for Life podcast with Linh and Edward Thomas, and we hope to hear you again.